More Australians shop at Woolworths and Coles than any other stores, but their dominance of the market has come at a cost to smaller businesses, unable to compete with their aggressive pricing regimes. Unless there's a change, critics say smaller shopping outlets may cease to exist. So are the big players deliberately killing off their smaller competitors? Greg Hoy reports.
Not so long ago, the scenic Shire of Bright in northern Victoria buzzed with busy local retailers selling lots of local produce. Then, 3 years ago, supermarket giant Woolworths came to town.
Well, Woolworths are coming in, and the other butchers, as soon as they come in, it's just be folded up and just went. We dropped probably about between 60 and 70%. We had 10 staff, 8 or 10 staff, now we're back to 3.
What does the big supermarket do for supplies?
I think it's brought out of Queensland, actually.
No local produce in there?
No local at all.
Woolworths built its 2,500 square metre superstore outside Bright's shopping strip, sending another supermarket, now an op shop, to the wall. Survivors and their suppliers are still reeling.
We've seen a butcher close. The dairy is, it's lost probably 80% of its business. We're 60% down and struggling.
Soon, the Foodworks supermarket in the nearby town of Myrtleford collapsed. Its ghostly shell is all that remains.
40 staff members ended up losing their jobs because the store had no other choice but to shut the doors because they could not stay in business.
The former supermarket's proprietor, Brad Munro, now managing a store in Melbourne, lost $500,000 he'd invested in the Myrtleford store. His partner lost even more, plus his house.
It's cost me a lot financially, but probably not so much as what it's cost a lot of the staff in the town emotionally. They would have to leave the town to look for work, which doesn't do a lot for the longevity of a small town like Myrtleford.
The same thing is happening across Australia.
They build a development which is really unsustainable, but they can support that on the turnover of a $50 billion plus company until they drive the competition out.
What we've seen is just a growth in market dominance between Coles and Woolworths. Their strength, their market power is unsurpassed. Nowhere else in the world have we seen such dominance.
Fruit shops, butcher shops and delicatessens, they've virtually disappeared these days. Projecting forward over the next 10 years, I think this trend's going to continue and you'll see less and less of these specialty food retailers in the marketplace.
So do supermarket giants feel any responsibility for causing financial hardship for others? Such big businesses have long argued they don't deliberately set out to kill competitors using predatory practices.
They said, I'm a big fish, and if I waggle my tail, I may inadvertently kill small fish, so I shouldn't be guilty. Now, firstly, big business knows what it's doing, but you often can't prove it.
We're very confident that there's a highly competitive marketplace out there and consumers are getting great prices as a result.
Neither Coles nor Woolworths would be interviewed to respond to concerns they deliberately eliminate competition. Instead, they deferred to their association, the National Retailers.
Coles and Woolworths are very large Australian companies. They employ hundreds of thousands of Australians and they're pivotal to the survival of a whole range of regional communities. And they do a great job. And they're proud Australian companies.
They're certainly large and getting larger, rapidly expanding into insurance and banking to cafes, pushing to move into pharmacies, growing liquor, petrol, office supplies, hardware, huge in hotels and pokies, general merchandise and clothing.
The duo dominate retail across many fields and markets. They have enormous power.
As in many other places in Queensland's seaside city of Townsville, Coles and Woolworths dominate. Recently, Woolworths bought out 2 independent rivals, triggering the closure of a string of smaller retailers. Michael Kopitke's bakery business was just one of the local shops driven out of business.
There was a baker, there was a butcher, there was a newsagent, and some other tenants which I'm not sure will survive. The issue as we go is what happens if Woolies and Coles dominance continues. Over time, surely long term it can't be a benefit for the community.
With more than 70% of the supermarket market, last year the Big Two reaped revenues of $68 billion on food and liquor alone. There's 170 new stores in the pipeline.
What you're actually seeing here is a hugely competitive marketplace here in Australia. Prices are lower than they've been for years.
Some say in the long run, however, prices will rise.
They're just taking more and more market share, and as their competitors, the small operator competitors, disappear, the consumers will end up in the long run paying high prices.
Citing that very argument, the coalition government has recently introduced a competition policy review to appease small business and rural suppliers who argue that they too have borne the brunt of big supermarkets abusing their market power. Small grocers and the former ACCC chairman Alan Fells are calling for an effects test, a tough new law to stop big supermarket strategies that effectively eliminate small competition.
When a powerful firm uses its power to harm competition and thereby harm the economy and maybe small business and farmers and consumers, that's against the law in just about every country except Australia and New Zealand.
Though another year has gone, I'm ready for the next one too.
Now all eyes will be on the Competition Policy Review and the ACCC to see if both will recommend introduction of an effects test in competition law.
I'd like to see the ACCC support an effects test. The time has come for this change.
We're looking at the bigger getting bigger and the smaller getting smaller. The be-all and end-all is that if there is only one supermarket in one town, that supermarket can charge what they want.